Hi Leo, it's Erin Scott here. Welcome to your September 2019 Alchemy Scope. So, pardon my delay in getting this out. I've had some various technical glitches that I've had to contend with for these uploads. So, let's take a look. We're going to look at your naturally encoded evolutionary cycle for this time frame via three modalities. This art channeling video that you're starting to see in front of you now. This is a speeded up video of a process that I went into. We're going to look at a divinatory message and we're going to look at your astrology. So there's three aspects here that we're going to dive into. So you can see here, I'm starting with an ink pen. I'm using pen first. Now we have some pastels coming in. But we started with this black squiggly line, an X, and then the beginnings of a house. And now there's this blue configuration. And it seemed originally when this was coming through, it felt like water. It felt like a lake. It felt like some sort of enclosed body of water. And the brown felt like soil around it, and in the background, sort of a mountain peak or two behind, okay? So behind the house and behind what first felt like a body of water, but you're going to see it ends up becoming something else. Okay, the other thing that I got here was Bahamas. So that scribble there above this blue form is the word Bahamas. And of course, the Bahamas is in the midst of going through, or is pretty much during and after, in the recent aftermath of this Hurricane Dorian. So we'll talk about that as well. You can see there's like a green plot of land that emerged around the house. There's a black roof to the house and a door, no windows, but a door to the house. So we're going to talk about all of this. There was a lot of contemplation for your particular reading. There was one particular area that comes out at the end of the reading, which has to do with this X that came up at the bottom. You can see here that now there's an articulation of this particular blue form. So something's coming through. It's not water per se. So it's a baby wrapped in a blanket. You're going to see this face emerging here. Okay, but this is a blue blanket and a baby wrapped in this blue blanket, okay? And you can see it's a large form, almost looking like a kidney bean too. But this large baby form, bigger than the house, right? Comparatively. So far we have the wrapped baby, the mountains in the background, the baby surrounded by this earth, this soil. We have the house, we have a plot of land surrounding the house, we have the squiggle, the X, and now we have this green land, perhaps grass, some formation that comes up to the edge of the X, Leo. So what is that about? I don't really know. We're doing a live analysis now as I'm recording this audio. You can see now that the green around the house, this plot of land, is rounding out. Rounding out. It's like a sphere, a bubble. And now the green that was blocked by the X is continuing under the house. Do you see that? There was a line of green that was added underneath the sphere of green around the house. And then there was a lot of contemplation because something wanted to come through with regards to this X. I didn't understand what it was about. A lot of times, by the way, when I'm doing these art channelings, I don't understand what any of this is about. The interpretations come later. So here we have the O in Leo being highlighted with yellow, filled in with yellow. And then the yellow is also being emphasized on that X. So the O of Leo and the X are both yellow. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. Okay, so Leo, let's take a look then about this analysis and kind of dive in and see what this is about. The first thing was the squiggle line. And even right now, I'm not clear about what the squiggle was. It can indicate a back and forth motion. So when we're tapping into the growth processes that are happening for the Leo archetype, there may be at least maybe even the beginning portion of the month that feels either like a seesaw effect or a back and forth, or you might feel unsure about what path to take. And indeed, it might be that some of you Leos, because there was the squiggly line with the X Leo, it could be that there's a back and forth or an indecision about something, and then there's a block. So you put a pause on it, you hold, okay? The second thing that came through was I think the second thing was the blue form, the blue blob, which originally had the sense of being water, a body of water, okay? Now, that's important. Ultimately, this became a baby wrapped in a blue blanket, but water, emotions, intuition are connected to the message of the baby. And Bahamas came out. Bahamas, which is being inundated with water. Now, if we look at the baby's blue blanket, it's massive. The baby is a large component of this drawing. The house is minor. So what does this mean for you? We're going to talk about the house, we're going to talk about the green, and we're going to talk about the mountains, but let's focus on the baby right now. Give me a second, Leo. I just want to look at this for a minute. Well, let me just identify a few things that I see. First of all, the baby is calm. The baby is safe. The baby is swaddled. The baby is resting, sleeping. Okay? So this is a calm, peaceful, nurtured, and protected baby. Let's just start there, because ultimately that's what we're looking at here. And the baby represents new birth, right? Babies, children, certainly babies, but even young children represent innocence, represent a new beginning, a new start. Babies and infants, such as this, represent a literal new beginning. There's a new chapter beginning. There's a new story beginning. And the fact that the blue blanket is protecting the baby, and because the blue first was indicated as water, emotions, it could be that there's an emotional need or drive or desire within a lot of Leos over the course of this month ahead, that you have a drive to protect, a maternal, almost Cancerian aspect of you, Leo, that's coming through to want to protect and keep safe people, animals, children, babies, demographics of people that you feel are in harm's way. Because the Bahamas is written up there, and because we're currently dealing with this Hurricane Dorian, and the devastating impacts that it's already left, it indicates that there's some need to protect. There's a need to protect the innocence, the innocent people, or the innocence of I don't know, your clients, your children. Let me just think about this, Leo. There's something, Bahamas and water. That's storm. It's storm. It's disruption. The baby is swaddled and safe in the blue, but yet Bahamas is written right there. The other thing that I'll point out, Leo, is that the squiggly line that I first started with on this page, if you notice, the beginning of that squiggly line leads to the head of the baby, and also at the other side of the head of the baby is Bahamas. So it might be that there's something about a lot of Leos are being called to provide protection. A lot of Leos might be feeling called to provide protection for people that need it at this time. It might be too, because the Bahamas and the Dorian hurricane is representing stormy water. It could be that a lot of Leos are simply undergoing a lot of emotional turmoil and back and forth, thus the squiggly line, and need a lot of protection. Maybe Leos are actually simply needing a lot of rest and self-care, self-protection during this time frame. It could be very much that, Leo. In fact, that's kind of what I'm getting more than anything else. For some of you, could there be children involved in the need to protect your children? Yes. But I'm actually getting that for Leos in September, there could be some emotional activity that takes you back and forth with some topics, some emotional reactivity with some topics, and kind of stormy. It creates this emotional storm, right? However, ultimately the baby is swathed and protected. Leo needs that this month. Leo needs to attend to the safety and self-care and self-preservation and self-nurturance and even hermit-like boundary. So some of you Leos might find that you need to be contained over the course of September. Why would that be? I don't know. We're going to look at the astrology and take a look. I really haven't studied your chart yet, so we're going to pull it up as I'm doing this audio. But with regards to this is what I'm getting. Stormy emotions, back and forth emotions, the need to self-care and self-protect yourself emotionally, intuitively. And keep in mind, if we're talking about water, if we're talking about intuition, if we're talking about the moon and Cancer, of course, I'm doing this reading for Leo, but there's a lot of Cancer energy that I'm getting with the blue blanket wrapped baby. Okay, so that's why I'm bringing up this kind of water and emotions and Cancer, which is all associated with the archetype of Cancer. And also mothering and protection and providing caregiving for those who need it is also Cancer. So with all of that being said, Leo has a need to activate their own Cancer, their own intuitive need to self-protect and care for themselves. Now, are you going to want to also care for those that need it? I do sense that that's also the case, okay? Now, the thing with the baby is this is the biggest issue for the month. The need that there are some emotional back and forth reactivity happening. There might be some extremes of emotion going on, and there is a need to create the proper boundary and self-protective mechanisms that you need. Below that is the house, right? And a house is also fourth house Cancer, right? So what we're looking at with the house is, number one, it's a simple house with one door, no windows. I actually don't know what that means yet. And we have the black roof. There was no coloration that wanted to be put on the house. So this can represent the unconscious, especially the roof. The roof is in black and the door is, it almost is like there's no front door there. It's almost like it's just open, like an opening to the inside of that house. Right? So there's no door. In fact, that's what I'm getting, Leo, for you, is that there is a need to self-protect this month because you might feel like an open door. Maybe like a lot of you feel too exposed, that you haven't learned how to ground your own energetic system and create the proper energetic boundary. A lot of you might feel too open and exposed. The fact that the roof is in black, which can represent the subconscious mind, it can represent the unconscious, it can also represent shadow aspects, but the roof is the protection of the house. So it's interesting because the protection of the house, there's an unconsciousness to it. The fact that there's no door means that people can come in. So there's something about an openness and a vulnerability that this month it's creating some emotional rift within you, that you are now called to protect yourself and nurture yourself and rest even. This is also about sleep and rest and create calm for yourself. So there's something about the need to protect your energy, your house, your vehicle, your body, your energy, your thoughts, your emotions, Leo, this month, because unconsciously there's an opening in your system, in your energy. It's very important that you listen to what I'm saying right now because this is coming through very strongly. You do have an opening. People can get in and, energies can enter easily. So there's almost a vulnerability, but the thing is the black roof and the black opening to the house is representing unconsciously to you. You are too open. You're vulnerable. So there is a need to boundary. And you're also going to notice that the outline of the baby in the blue blanket also became black. So there's a need to unconsciously create that protection energetically. That's actually very clear for me for you, okay? Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that there's the green around the house. It started as like a plot of land, and then it became like a sphere. So the sphere represents holism, or a holistic way of protecting the self, right? Because we're talking about this house and unconsciously and the open door and people getting in, or entities, energies entering your system unconsciously, right? So, but the thing with the green that started as a little box around the house, but then grew to be the bulbous, round, green sphere is very key, because what I get is that over the course of this month, Leo, you're going to be understanding and learning that the square or box-like protection around yourself is actually not working, and you need a more holistic system of self-care and self-protection. So what does that mean? Well, the box or the square of green that was originally around the house can represent the left brain, the more analytic brain, the parts-oriented brain, the logistics and strategizing brain. But the round area of green around this house can represent the holistic mind, the right brain, the more holistically oriented and long view, the one that assesses intuitively and emotionally. It has a way to empathize and see the web of the system versus just the parts of the system. So all that being said, that indicates that over the course of this month, you're going to learn that you need to more holistically protect yourself. Okay? Now, the mountains in the back, they're all in brown. There's no trees or green on these mountains. They're kind of rocky and pointy. They're jagged-like. And so there's something here about jagged stone-like mountains, and they actually they come behind the house and then they come around the baby. So, jagged, sharp, pointy mountains, rock. This is hard, right? Rock is hard. It can be sharp. It can be dangerous. It can certainly seem, literally, the sharpness of these points is symbolic of the function. So this can feel like danger. So maybe this month there's more of a sensitivity to not feeling safe, and thus the need to protect yourself emotionally in order to feel safe. That's what I'm getting here. Now, with regards to the X and the O. Okay. First of all, the O is round. It's a sphere. And the sphere ended up protecting the house. So that's one interesting thing that we want to look at. The O of Leo is inherently a sphere, and the green box around the house became a green sphere. So there's something here about a holistically seeing and a holistically operating approach to your life this month. You're needing to see things and operate from a more well-rounded and balanced way of operating, whatever that means for you. So, in other words, there's some area in life that's a bit imbalanced that's going to require you to more holistically attend to it, to see it from all sides, and to, for example, to activate your thinking function, your feeling function, your intuition function, and your sensing function, and utilize all of those equally. Also, the layers of mind, body, spirit also need to all be activated, okay? Not to forget one or the other, but to actually incorporate all areas when you assess your life circumstances and any kind of need for protection that is called for now. But the O of Leo is highlighted in yellow, and yellow is, of course, this third chakra of the identity, the will, determination, resolution. This is also inherently a color of joy and what you emanate out to the world. And of course, the sun rules Leo. So the sun, which is a yellow sphere, is very much indicated here, right? Leo, filled in with yellow, represents to me inherently the sun, which is its ruling planet. And the sun is connected to our third chakra, which is the identity and your free will choice and how you emanate out who you are, okay? So what I get with the X, because at the end of the drawing, the last thing that I ended up filling in here was the X ultimately at the bottom of that reading, which was one of the first things I drew, ended up being highlighted in yellow, okay? So the yellow is you as an individual saying no. And the interesting thing, Leo, about the X is that's a no. The X is saying enough or no more, or this is where I'm going to create the boundary. And you do it because your willpower says enough. The yellow of the O, the yellow of the X. You decide, you make a choice, Leo. You make a choice this month to say no. Now, the no is happening with regards to the fluctuation that's happening with regards to stormy waters, which is stormy emotions, okay? Again, the line is coming down from the Bahamas, and it's coming down from the baby's head, okay? So this back and forth of emotional stormy waters, eventually this month you say, enough. I'm not going to be the reactionary vehicle for these things. I'm going to self-inquire. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to ground. I'm going to own my own story. I'm going to own my own thought processes. I'm going to own my own default reactions. I'm going to understand my natal blueprint. I'm going to understand who I am. For some of you, that's what's happening this month. I understand me and I own the narrative. Okay, for some of you, not all of you, for some of you, that's going to be the narrative. Now, the green is indicating like grass, land, growth, earth, okay? So the interesting thing is there's this kind of block of green on the lower left side, and then there's a line that ends up getting extended underneath the X, underneath the X, and it continues and it underlines the sphere and the house. Let me look at that. This is what I get. The boundary that you create, this is what I get. Now, follow me, Leo. Okay, you have to follow me along a little bit. Originally, there was the squiggly line. Then there was the X. Those were the first two things I drew on here, right? At the end of the reading, we have the yellow being highlighted in the X, and we have the green line underlining and extending beyond underneath the house. So those are the last two things, the first two things and the last two things, right? With the first two things, squiggly line and the X is there's a lot of fluctuation and I'm creating some sort of a boundary. But the thing is that original boundary that Leo created didn't just stop or didn't just end the emotional fluctuation. It also halted or stopped the green, the growth, the nature of who you are. Okay? So the X stopped the green. But then what happens at the end of the reading is the ego or the will or the free will choice says, I am in my power as I claim the boundary, and I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? I'm not going to get rid of all of it. I'm going to create the boundary that I need, and I'm going to let the other things through. And what got let through at the end? Green. So you're letting some through when the free will choice of your egoic willpower says, this is who I am, this is what I want, this is the choice I make. but you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, which of course is an interesting analogy when we're looking at the Bahamas and the baby wrapped in the blanket. So there's something here about discernment, clarity, grounding, rest. Take the rest that you need. Identify what you need to nurture yourself and provide yourself self-care. Okay? Okay, dear Leo. So it's going to be an interesting month. There's one other thing I'll point out before we move on to the divinatory message. The other thing here is you're going to notice that when I wrote Leo at the top of the page, the L has kind of a arced underline to it, and the O has an arced underline to it. It's almost like it's border. Well, it's like it's a frame. It's like it's the corner of a frame. I don't know if that's going to make sense to some of you. It's like, for example, if you look at the other readings, you're going to notice that didn't happen. For yours, literally for Leo, there's a little bit of a border or a boundary on the left side, and there's a little bit of a border or a boundary on the right side. And I have to tell you, that feeds right into the narrative here. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at the divinatory message for you. Now, this is quite interesting. For you, dear Leo, you got Fate Line. This is a palmistry deck written by Cindy Solano. And this is your growth edge for this month. Now, with the Fate Line on the palm, you can see it highlighted or circled there on the image of the palm. This is about create and direct your destiny, okay? This author may use terminology that's not my norm and it's not what I prefer, but we're going to read what she wrote here. Let me find I need to find the page. So this is your growth for this month. This is what needs to be matured for you this month, okay? This is the reflection for you to think about and to grow and mature. Be aware of following the wrong crowd. You must see and create your own fulfilling destiny. Of course, your journey may not be easy. Everyone encounters setbacks. This is part of what being human means. Do not be afraid if at first your choice may seem difficult. Your perseverance will be rewarded because you will find the correct path in the end. Tomorrow begins right now. Ask yourself, what is one step that you can do immediately and do it? You are in charge, so fulfill your destiny. Clearly, when it comes to the art channeling, the yellow of that third chakra, and indeed the sun, your ruling planet, is keyed in here because it has to do with your selfhood, who you are as an individuated being, okay? So this is about stepping into your path, participating with your path. That's what this is about. That's your growth edge. That's your maturity, okay? Now, Leo, let's take a look at your astrology for this month ahead. Now, you're going to first off the top here, I want to acknowledge that you're going to notice that this chart looks funny, right? You're going to notice that the glyphs on the perimeter of this astro.com chart are all skewed, but take it with a grain of salt. This is a Photoshop program that I used to create the chart that I needed to do the interpretation. So just understand that the glyphs for the signs are all skewed, okay? But don't worry about that because it doesn't affect the meaning of the chart. So this is what we're going to point out here for you, and this is for the archetype of Leo, that the stellium of planets that began the energetics of this month ahead, which was at our Virgo new moon point, and for the majority of September, the stellium of planetary energies is in Virgo, okay? Now, for you, this lands in your second house. So the energies of, Mercury and Venus and Mars and Sun are all really hyper-focused in the second house of self-value, right? Second house is how you love and value the self. The second house is what you do to honor yourself and to give yourself what you need to survive and thrive. All right. So, what do you do for a living? How do you make the money that you use to live and put food on the table, etc.? How do you thrive? How is it that you value yourself or don't? Now, the critical thing for Leo at this time is that one of the archetypal quality sets of Virgo is it can be hypercritical, hyper self-critical, okay? And hypercritical of others, It's one of the ways that it functions when its sole function is to make sure that all the parts are healthfully operating so that the whole is maximally operating. That's what Virgo's about. Parts working so that the whole is efficient, okay? Ultimately, too, Virgo is about work. It's about physical manifest reality. It's about the details of our day. It's about our work day. It's about health and healing. These are all quality sets of Virgo. Now, for you, all of these energies in Virgo are in your second house. So the second house of self-value it's all enmeshed in this Virgo energy. So how is it that you value your health, the balance of your health, the details of your health? How is it that you value your diet? Do you love and value yourself enough to attend to the exercise and the healthful processes and dietary needs that you need now, that you maturely know that you need in your life now, okay? How do you attend to your day-to-day work? Are you a perfectionist? Do you put things off? Are you attending to the details? All of these things are coming up. How do you attend to what you need to attend to logistically in order to survive in this world and indeed to thrive in abundance in this world? Okay? Now, there's a lot of oppositions going on from that stellium of planets in Virgo up to Black Moon Lilith at 10 degrees Pisces and Neptune at 17 degrees Pisces. This is in your 8th house. So there could be some delusion and self-devaluation coming up for you with regards to power dynamics with other people, but also with how you shared resources with other people. How do others... I need to look at this actually for a minute. Because the 8th house is all about shared resources and other people's money and how you survive through the sharing of money, possessions, things like that. It covers many things, the 8th house, but essentially it's 2nd house taking care of self, 8th house being carried through cooperative effort and shared resources. That's what the 8th house is. So with that being said, there is this trigger of energy between a lot of, let's say, natural function of who you are, what you value, and your driver to make your own money, to make money of integrity, to deal with your health in a way that's really nurturative to you and really cares for your body, your physical body, in a really important way. But it's connected, dear Leo, to this Lilith energy, which is, I am not valuable. I am not valuable, and the others don't value me. Like, people don't want to share with me, or people don't want to give to me. So one of the growth edges inherent for you, Leo, with 2nd house grouping here in Virgo, is there might even be this kind of stern effort that I have to take care of myself, that nobody's going to take care of me. There could be a little sadness this month arising with that, actually. Neptune is our antenna to spirit, so it's certainly where we have psychic capacity and where we connect intuitively. But Neptune also, because it is the function of the consciousness field, which is immaterial, it's no matter. What that indicates is this is where we get confused and where we can go into delusion and fantasy, right? And because during this time, all the signs have it, you also have Neptune conjunct Black Moon Lilith, which is very important because Lilith-Neptune can pull us into a distractive fantasy that we are not valuable in this world. For you, where you're having that fantasy of we're not valuable in this world is with regards to the spouse or the partner, when it's regards to inheritance from the family, when it's in regards to shared resources or people giving to you in a way that helps you live and survive. So there's a growth edge here inherent that you have to learn to love and value yourself, and that you inherently do matter, inherently in this life, that you do matter with regards to your participation in some cooperative effort, perhaps with a spouse, perhaps with extended family even, that has to do with sharing your money or sharing possessions or sharing, investments, sharing resources, okay? But you're having to understand that indeed you are valuable in that way, okay? For some of you too, you might find that the spouse during this month might go into a major victim mode and might feel very damaged and hurt, and might use power dynamics in order to prompt I definitely get that. I definitely get that for some of you that are married, you're going to be encountering dynamics with the spouse or the partner, the intimate partner, where you do have shared resources, where they're going to not step up. There's more of a dissolving energy for them when it comes to, and operating from a place of victim. Somehow, like, their money goes away, their value goes away, they don't feel valuable by you. That's another way by which this can show up. So this is kind of an interesting dynamic. For some of you, you're going to have to contend with and really see and honor the process of the spouse if they're going through that process. Let them own it. It might not be yours, but please understand that any dynamic, it's a reflection. Any relationship, especially when we're triggered by it, it's always a reflection of the inner wounding. So you're going to find as within, so without here. Inner wounding will show up as a spouse or an intimate partner, having a sense of them not being valuable as part of the unit or part of the contributory partnership. I don't know if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. The other thing that you have going on is that stellium of planets down in Virgo is squaring Jupiter, 5th house, Sagittarius. This is huge because it indicates that some of you might be getting to work on issues of creative teaching, creative and expansive, and creative, let's say, communication projects. That's what I would say. I think that some of you are going to be operating with creativity with regards to teaching techniques that you're bringing through, or modalities of teaching that you're bringing through. And it's very much connected to the work that you do to bring in income for yourself. So that's very activated this month. The other thing that I'll mention, one last thing, there's lots of things we'll talk about, but we'll continue this next month with October's reading. But one thing I'll say, Leo, here is that stellium of planets in Virgo is quincunxing Chiron in the 9th. Because you have the stellium of planets squaring Jupiter in Sagittarius, which is, they're both naturally associated with the 9th house, and because the quincunx is happening, those green lines from Virgo up to the Chiron in Aries in the 9th house, it does indicate that there is some insecurity and some doubt with regards to your belief in yourself. Why do I say that? Because it's Chiron Aries 9th house. So your belief system about you as an identity, Aries, has a bit of self-doubt going on. There's some vulnerability and there's some insecurity that live in the construct of your belief system. But the other side of that coin, and what you're going to have to grow and mature this month and ongoing, is to get to the other side of the Chiron archetypal function within your blueprint. And of course, Chiron is the master healer and teacher, Leo. So you are to become the master teacher and healer, but this month you are contending with some crunchy aspects, some dissonant aspects, where you're going to have to not be so self-critical. Very much that's the message for you. Not be so self-critical, Virgo, with regards to your value of self, 2nd house. And the fact is that the square down to Jupiter and Sagittarius, there's a prompting or an impetus that you're feeling to teach or to share or disseminate information. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Listen, there's a lot more to talk about, but I'll have more to come, so stay tuned. Leo, I have lots of sales going on this month of September, and I invite you to take advantage of the ones that are really speaking to you. Those interested, please get a natal chart analysis. I go very in depth, and it's a foundational tool. Everybody needs to have one. Membership for weekly streams, it's only $11 a month. You can see all the information below. I send you much love for your month ahead, Leo, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.